Everything shared here is for educational purposes and personal reflection only, not medical advice. Always work with your own healthcare provider for individual care. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Script. I am recording this on Sunday, January 4th. So right after the holidays, and it's 2026, which I'm really excited about. I hope everyone had wonderful holiday celebrations doing whatever it is that you do. I hope you guys got some downtime. I sure did. I had almost like 2 weeks off of work. So the scaries are definitely real going into tomorrow. So what I wanted to talk about this episode is how I practice medicine the way I do. When I approach integrative medicine, particularly, it's bringing things back to the basics. There is so much health information out there and it's so overwhelming. And oftentimes there's a way to simplify it, and things, ideas, systems can be made a lot more simple than the things that are out there. So I'm going to dive in and explain some of the ways I treat my patients. And if there's one truth I've learned personally and professionally through working with thousands of patients, I would say, and even myself, is this. Before we chase the fancy labs, while very tempting, or all of the trendy protocols, we have to build a foundation when it comes to health and wellness in our bodies. So the basics are really what keep our body in homeostasis, which I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means. I practice using what I developed and what I call are the 6 pillars of health. And these are what transformed my own health, reshaped the way I practice medicine, and honestly saved me during one of the hardest seasons of my life when it came to my health. So today I'm going to share them with you. And a little story into my why for this. Before I get into the 6 pillars, I want to take you back to college, because that is really when this moment shaped my entire approach to chronic illness, even though I didn't know it at the time when I was in this class. Basically, in my sophomore year of nursing school, I was taking pathophysiology, which was hands down my favorite class I've ever taken. Nerd alert. Our first lesson in this pathophysiology class was on a concept called homeostasis. And it's the body's ability to maintain a stable internal environment. So it's really built on resilience in your body, which is just amazing. We learned this at the cellular level. That's how detailed this can get, and how complex our body is, and how much of a system our body is that we oftentimes overlook. When the body is homeostasis, everything is working in harmony. Chaos can't get through. But when the balance is disrupted, disease takes hold, and that can look many different things. So I basically became fascinated with the idea that if we could preserve this balance, we could prevent chronic illness before it ever developed. Fast forward to my work in functional and integrative medicine in Chicago, where everyone wanted thousands of dollars worth of labs, microbiome testing, hormones, neurotransmitters, you name it. And these are very expensive tests not covered by insurance. But I noticed something. If we didn't address the foundation, nothing moved. So you cannot heal on a shaky foundation. And there's also a line from a show I recently watched, and it's called Brilliant Minds, and it stopped me in my tracks. The doctor said something along the lines of, we don't treat the person as the disease. We treat the disease within the person. And that's exactly how I practice. A diagnosis is never the whole story. The symptoms even are never the whole story. It's a chapter, not the full identity. So we have to look at the whole person. My whole idea of the 6 pillars of health were born. And I named them diet, digestion, movement, sleep, stress management, and detoxification. Once I brought patients back to these 6 basics, I saw momentum, I saw clarity, and I finally saw healing. So, some of the most common things I have treated are chronic fatigue, gut issues, thyroid disorders, autoimmune disorders, chronic pain, weight gain, menstrual irregularities, or hormone imbalances. And patients would come to me wanting every panel imaginable. But before labs, I always asked questions. This is where it starts. You have to get a good history. I would ask things like, what does your diet look like? How much caffeine do you drink? Alcohol? How's your sleep? How's your digestion? How often are you moving your body? How do you feel after you move your body? Very key. How do you feel emotionally? Do you feel supported, connected with yourself, friends, family, partner? And do you like your job? So every single time I found that at least 2 or 3 of the pillars were completely out of balance. And fixing those alone created massive shifts. And know this, when the basics crumble, internal resilience disappears. Your body cannot maintain homeostasis, that concept we talked about in the beginning. It can't adapt, it can't repair, and it can't thrive. So let's break down each pillar and I'll share how my own experiences shaped them. So the first one, diet. I don't prescribe rigid diets because the body often tells you exactly what it needs. Obviously, if there's an underlying issue, celiac disease, for instance, or a known allergy, sure, there's a time and a place for it. It's not everyone gets a gluten-free diet, I guess is basically what I'm trying to say. All we have to do when it comes to diet is we have to learn how to listen. So I focus on whole foods with lots of color, fiber, and balanced plates. So basically what I tell patients at each meal, really try to aim for a protein source, 1 to 2 servings of healthy fats, fruits or vegetables, and then a complex carbohydrate. Right now, I've noticed we're in a huge protein craze. And yes, protein is crucial, absolutely. But what I've noticed is most women specifically are under eating carbs. There's a lot of food fear out there, and it takes a long time to reverse that mindset. Many women are under eating carbs, and they literally break down into glucose, which is your body's primary fuel. So especially there's so many women out there exercising every day, not eating enough carbs. Your muscles, your cells need carbs. Carbs stabilize cortisol, support hormones, and give your nervous system the energy it needs. Here's the truth with all of this. You have to eat enough. Chronic calorie and carb deficits wreck your hormones. I really don't ever tell people to eat certain types of macros or calories. I mean, I do make sure people are eating enough. If they tell me they track their calories and they're eating way too little, I will tell them and try to get them to increase their caloric intake. I'll have them see a dietitian just so that they can spend a little bit more time on that. I don't really prescribe a calorie whatever because everyone's needs are different. And then another thing with cravings, which I hear a lot about. Cravings are clues, not problems. So that's another reframe we all have to make. A lot of the times I notice if people are craving fat, then you probably need more calories. Craving sugar, you likely are underfueling with complex carbs. I am not kidding. Once you start increasing your carbohydrate intake, whether it's through potatoes, rice, you will have less sweet cravings. I promise. It's kind of rare for me to crave a sweet once I started adding more carbs into my diet. I obviously still crave them, but it's not like it used to be. Another one with craving red meat, you might need iron or protein. So those are just a few tips if you guys want to take that away. And then one thing for me, I used to avoid eggs and limit fat because I was afraid they'd upset my stomach due to my chronic digestion issues. And once I really started to listen to my body and tune in and figure out what it needed, And part of this was aligning my eating with my menstrual cycle, which is your follicular phase, ovulation, luteal, and then your menstrual phase. Everything changed. And not only that, I was listening to my body. My digestion issues changed too, because I was giving my body what it needed. So my anxiety around food dropped. As I said, my digestion improved, and I finally felt nourished. It can take a minute to kind of reframe this. It's hard, but it's possible. Okay. I want to touch on intermittent fasting. Hot take, I do not recommend intermittent fasting longer than 12 to 14 hours for women. So say like I eat dinner at 7 p.m., I'm eating breakfast at 7 a.m. I don't really even think about a fasting window. I just go to bed and make sure that I eat a well-balanced dinner, and then I wake up and I try to get food in within like an hour of waking up. Yeah. The thing is, I think men can get away with intermittent fasting more than women, and that's okay. We are wired differently. Our physiology is completely different, and our hormones are way less resilient than men's when it comes to intermittent fasting. Long fasts increase cortisol, cravings, disrupt your hormones, and make most women feel worse. One thing, please don't drink coffee on an empty stomach. Listen, I've been there, but it just wrecks your hormones. It wrecks your digestion. It's very acidic, not ideal. For me, what another thing that really helped when it came to diet overall was really cooking close to 90% of my meals at home. And you might think, well, wow, that sounds very restrictive. Listen, I always cooked mostly, like I would say 70 to 80% of my meals at home, but I'm at this point in my life where I actually look forward to it. I want to cook my meals. I enjoy it. It's a creative outlet for me. Honestly, now that my food anxiety has kind of gone away, it makes me more excited to cook at home. Like I'm just cooking a lot more fun things. I think your intention behind everything is really important. And for me, cooking close to 90% of my meals at home, it's not a way for me to restrict myself. I'm actually enjoying it. I prefer to do it. Obviously, I love to go out to dinner with friends or go to brunch, but I really enjoy this part of my life now. That's another thing that really shifted for me, and mindset is everything. Pillar number 2 is digestion. Digestion is one of my favorite topics because I've lived through all of it. All of it. You name it, I've had it. So your digestion is really a window into your internal world. And I really always knew that growing up or even as an adult, but it's different to truly believe it. I'm going to have a whole episode dedicated to digestion and my story behind it and what I did and what worked, what didn't. So that will be a whole other episode. So I'm just going to touch on a few things here. But usually, if you're feeling bloated or have reflux or indigestion, that's often a sign of low stomach acid or low bile. Again, we're going to get all into this, but just kind of testing the waters here. And then if you're having like loose bowel movements or diarrhea, that's typically possible intestinal permeability. And then if you're having like lower bowel movements, constipation, most common stress, it can be a sign of low stomach acid, low fiber, or dehydration. So those are the most common things I see. But this is the piece I want you to remember. If you don't digest your emotions, you can't digest your food. Simply put, stress and unprocessed emotions live in the gut. Our gut is our second brain. 70% of our neurotransmitters are in our gut. So when you're doing nervous system regulation, stress reduction, guess what? Your digestion will improve. I promise. Again, as I said, we're going to go deeper in a future episode, but for now, know that for many people, especially people who are highly sensitive, and I imagine that is you since you are listening to me, know that your gut mirrors your emotional landscape. Okay, pillar 3, movement. My relationship with exercise has changed dramatically over the past 15 years. I used to think movement meant run, sweat, push, burn calories, look a certain way. And now I focus on movement, not exercise. This pillar used to be called exercise. In the last, I would say, year and a half, I switched this to movement because that's how I view exercise now. Movement to me is intentional, it's flexible, it's intuitive, and exercise is simply one part of it. So my current routine changes every week. Like I don't have like a structured thing, but I typically, give or take, will do 2 days of Pilates. I aim for 3 days of strength training. Sometimes it's 2 if I'm too tired or if I'm not feeling it. And then daily walking, not for steps, just to move, get sunlight, support lymphatic flow, and clear my head. It's a huge nervous system regulation tool for me. I feel my best when I'm just outside walking. I have been through every phase of this. The overtraining, hot yoga, daily, HIIT workouts 6 days a week, 90 minutes in the gym. I look back at photos from my mid to late 20s, and I was the most inflamed during the time I was doing the most. Most inflamed when I was doing the most in terms of exercise. If you overdo it with exercise, your body will get inflamed. I promise. And then mobility matters so much. It does not get talked about enough. Mobility is literally everything. And I will say Pilates transformed my flexibility, and even it has helped my patients eliminate chronic back pain. Pilates is amazing for lengthening muscle fibers, so it indirectly helps improve your flexibility. I am not naturally flexible, but my flexibility has improved significantly with Pilates. And then one thing for women is honoring your cycle when it comes to exercise and movement. Crucial. During my luteal phase, which is after ovulation until you have your period, that's your luteal phase. It's usually when your body needs the most nourishment, the most rest, downtime. So during my luteal phase, I move less. I choose more Pilates, more walking, stretching. Movement should always match your energy, not punish it. So if you wake up feeling depleted, guess what? Just skip your workout. Your body is telling you to slow the F down. And then lastly, I want to touch on the importance of movement and muscle mass. Muscle mass is really crucial for overall longevity. I love Pilates, as I mentioned, but I also love strength training. We need strength training to build muscle. And one thing I will say that I give a lot of credit to when it comes to strength training and movement and exercise is my mom. She is 68 years old and she has always been very active. And she has always emphasized the importance of strength training and lifting weights. I will tell you, she is still extremely active. She is 68 and still goes to Orange Theory. I see her and her arms are jacked as a 68-year-old woman, and she looks great. I really think it's because she has always been very active and she did strength training from an early age well into her 60s, and she will continue. She also rides horses at 68. I do not see her stopping anytime soon. So my point is muscle mass is key for longevity. And yeah, I owe that a lot to my mom. Hey gal, if this podcast is resonating with you, please share it on your socials and tag me. My Instagram handle is in the show notes. I love seeing this work reach the women who need it most. Okay, pillar 4 is sleep. Sleep is literally everything. Nothing improves without sleep. And I will say, after I went through a really hard time, my sleep completely tanked. My Aura Ring showed me how deeply my stress was affecting my recovery. If you wear an Aura Ring, you can tell how well your body is recovering from stress based on your HRV or your heart rate variability. It basically reflects your nervous system. And my HRV was tanked. It was 32 at the time. That's really not ideal, especially like already living a healthy lifestyle. It didn't fit what was going on. Another thing with the Aura Ring of what it showed me, and I love data, and this was very helpful in figuring out what was going on with my sleep. So it also showed me alcohol absolutely destroys my sleep quality. Screens late night destroy REM and deep sleep. And then morning caffeine without food was spiking my stress response. Yeah, I used to drink coffee on an empty stomach because I was on the go trying to get to work at 8 a.m., didn't have time to eat my breakfast, so I would do it at work, and then I was drinking coffee. That no longer happens anymore. So my sleep changed the most when I took magnesium glycinate after dinner, added L-theanine before bed, which is an amino acid. It's very calming and it helps really promote deep sleep and REM. And then I reduced my nighttime screen time. I was really good about this at one point. I was sleeping with my phone charging in my kitchen, and then I kept it out of my bedroom. And I was really good about that. I haven't been good about that lately. I need to go back to doing that. I'm going to hold myself accountable. So that was game changer. I would read before bed, and I also lowered my caffeine. I really supported my adrenals. Your adrenal glands is what produces cortisol, getting my body in that relaxation state of my nervous system. And I was really learning how to regulate stress. And that all occurs with changing your perception to something that is happening to you that you perceive as stressful. So there's a portion of that. And then actually honoring my bedtime. I can't tell you how many times I have seen this similar profile of a patient where they come in exhausted, inflamed, anxious, losing hair, sick all the time. Sleep is almost, I want to say always, but I'll say almost because I can't be certain right now because I've seen this like 100 times. Sleep is almost always part of the root cause. Sleep deprivation dysregulates literally everything. And yes, the solution can be simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. Okay. Pillar 5, stress management. Stress and sleep are inseparable. They really do go together. You really can't sleep well until your stress is under control. When I ask people how they manage stress outside of exercise, most of them literally look at me like I have 5 heads. They don't know how to answer. And I'm not saying not to exercise. Exercise movement is crucial, but we need to get our body in that rest digest phase of our nervous system. Exercise is great, movement is great, but it does increase your heart rate, your blood pressure, and spikes your cortisol, which in a short period of time is fine. But we need to balance that out with the rest digest phase of our nervous system. None of us were taught how to actually regulate our nervous systems. None of us were taught how to reduce stress, how to relax. And there really isn't a cookie cutter approach. You have to figure out how you are wired in order to reduce your stress. And I have this conversation with patients all the time. They ask me, like, well, what can I do to reduce my stress? And I'll give them some ideas, but I'm like, you need to tune in. You need to figure out how you are wired. And that's a question better suited for you. That's something you need to kind of figure out. Like, you can try, this is what works for me, and I give them my spiel, but it might not work for them. So you have to figure out how you are wired in order to get your body in that rest digest phase. Stress management, what works for me is walking without headphones, journaling, cooking, meditation, but nothing longer than like 10 to 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'm not sitting there doing meditation for longer than that. I get restless. Breath work. And again, that's not me sitting there doing a 20-minute breath work. It's literally like taking 3 deep breaths in between patients, especially if I deal with a very stressful situation at work. I will go outside I put my arms like over my head, stretch, and I take like 5 deep breaths in and out to reset my nervous system. That's really all it takes. You don't need to be doing that for 20 minutes. So, yeah, breath work, creative hobbies. Like, honestly, I will say once I decided to start a podcast and started creating content and writing episodes, my HRV and sleep improved. My resilience to stress improved because I was doing something that really lit me up. I cannot emphasize that enough. And then yoga and massages, love those. The other thing when it comes to stress management is in order to reduce your stress, you have to find presence in your mindset and in your body in order to activate that rest digest phase. What I mean by presence is you're not getting totally distracted by external stimulus or stimuli. Presence only works if your perception of stress changes. Things like that, for me, I am naturally an anxious and nervous person. My nervous system is very sensitive. It's very easy for me to get off the rails, like very easy. So I have to keep myself in check. When I'm feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out, I have to ask myself, does this need to be handled right now? Can this wait? Does this sensation, emotions, do these even belong to me? And is this mine to carry? That really helped shift this perception to incoming stressors. Another thing is boundaries. Boundaries changed everything for me, especially in patient care. I am naturally a people pleaser. I want to make everybody feel good. I naturally tend to take people's emotions on and try to manage everything at once. That doesn't work for me at all. No one should be doing that. But it really came to understanding my perception to just because I say no to someone, that doesn't mean I am selfish. That doesn't mean I am a bad provider or a bad nurse practitioner. I had to literally change my mindset of if this is going to disrupt my inner peace, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's a helpful thing to ask yourself if, say, somebody's trying to get you to take on a project at work, or a friend is asking you to go to dinner with somebody you don't like. I don't know. If you ask yourself, is this going to disrupt my inner peace? Then you don't do it. And I think that was a really helpful transition. And obviously, we have to do things we don't want to do. That's not what I'm saying. But it's more of that inner peace sensation where it literally causes your body to contract and react. Then it's a no. This isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. I think understanding that and flipping that script a little bit is very helpful. Improving sleep, regulating my eating, honoring my cycle, shifting from exercise to movement, all of this really reduced my stress. Last, pillar 6, detoxification. Detox, very nuanced, so I'm going to try and simplify this as much as possible. But detoxification only works when the gallbladder, liver, and microbiome are working together. I teach the 3 P's of detox with my patients: pee, poop, perspire. So basically, the way this works, the body moves toxins through 3 phases. Phase 1 is also called activation phase. So that's when liver enzymes make toxins water soluble. Things have to become water soluble so that they can eventually get bound and taken out of the body. But the thing is that you have to know is when these toxins become water soluble, they're still reactive, meaning if you're not actively eliminating them, they can cause detox reactions. So phase 2 is neutralization. That's when toxins that are now water soluble get bound, in other words, conjugated, so get bound so that you can get it out of your body. And then phase 3 is elimination. That's when the toxins that have been transformed into water-soluble compounds and are bound, they are now ready to get excreted through stool, urine, or sweat. And the thing is about this that people can make mistakes in is you have to start with phase 3. So you go backwards. You don't start with phase 1 because if you are going to make toxins water soluble but still reactive, you will get detox reactions. That's why if you're constipated, you have to fix the constipation first before you address the other forms of detox. How I support detox: sweating through exercise, sauna, Epsom salt baths, one of my favorite things to do, high fiber diet, leaner breakfast. And what I mean is like things that aren't super high in fat, because high fat in the morning just doesn't work for my body. It really slows things down. So oatmeal with protein powder and a scoop of like coconut yogurt or something. Like I still do get fat in the morning, but I can't do like a really high fat breakfast. Otherwise, it really messes with my digestion. And then coffee only with food. I never drink coffee on an empty stomach anymore. Managing stress, and then aiming for 2 to 3 bowel movements per day. Yes, 2 to 3. 1 bowel movement is good. 2 is great. 3 is excellent. We really should be going to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a day, because guess what? You're eating 3 times a day. If you're not actively pooping things out, toxins can build up. And then magnesium oxide, when needed, can be really helpful. Magnesium oxide powder, it really stimulates water into the colon so that you can have like a good bowel movement. That's key. I find that can work better than magnesium citrate. I find magnesium citrate can cause a lot of cramping and urgency. Magnesium oxide really doesn't do that. I'm sure it can in certain people, but I haven't had that complaint yet. And then dandelion tea before bed is great. And then just really trying to get optimal sleep. When you're sleeping, that's when your body detoxes the most. So again, detox is very nuanced. I can do a whole episode on it if you guys are interested. Kind of to close this out, these pillars overlap, and that's the point. Our body is a system at the end of the day. Like, I think especially in school, we were taught to look at the body as like separate organs, but that just couldn't be more false. When you adjust one of these pillars, or you bring something in for your health, another area of the pillar starts to shift. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And I know it can feel that. I 1000% know, but you pick one thing, and maybe it's morning hydration, and you will feel subtle but meaningful changes. And that's everything. So these 6 pillars have like seriously changed my life and the way I look at my health. And they've really changed my patients' lives too. Just trying to get them to think of things in more simpler terms. It's bringing things back to the basics and building a strong foundation. I hope that these brought some clarity to your health journey as well. I'm going to talk all about digestion in the next episodes. If you want me to go deeper into some of the other ones, let me know. I'm happy to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or want to share where you are in your wellness journey, or if you just want more of a specific topic or anything, questions, comments, concerns, whatever, send me a DM on Instagram at the Interscript Pod. I would truly love to hear from you. Love to know what's resonating, maybe what's not. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next week. All right, take care. If you want to connect with like-minded women and dive deeper into these conversations, join my Patreon community. There's a free option, and it's where we can talk about each episode together. The link is in the show notes, and I can't wait to see you there.